Alright, so now I'm going to go over how to read and write CSV in Excel files using Python. So the first step is to make sure that whatever files you're going to be working with are in the same directory as your program, your py file. So I moved the Chipotle data into this folder and I renamed it as well. But then I used numbers. Also, Excel does this, exported a CSV file, and I have them both in the same directory. You can see them over on the left hand side here in the Explorer tab. Alright, so I'll go over how to read and write CSV files first. So both of them are done with a module called pandas, and the way that you use the external modules is with the import keyword at the top of your function, or at the top of your program, and you put import and then the package name. So it uses pandas, and then the Excel portion also uses this package called OpenPixel. And so, all right. So reading the CSV file into Visual Studio Code is done with the read CSV function, and that is accessed by putting the module name and then a dot and then read CSV, and then parentheses, and in the parentheses put in quotation marks the name of the file that you're going to be dealing with. So I put chipotle.csv, it's just whatever you have it saved as. And then I have that on the right side of the equal sign. On the left side is the variable name that I'm storing it to. So this outputs what's called a data frame object. It's specific to the pandas module, but it basically contains, in a specifically formatted way, all of the data that is imported from this file. So that's stored into a variable called df, and that's important because that's how we're going to access the information later on. Essentially what this line is doing is creating a new data frame using the data stored in the previous data frame. So the way to do this is to type in a variable name and then equals, which is the way to establish a variable in Python. And then we want the data from the data frame stored to df, so we put that variable name, whatever variable you stored the read CSV information to, and then followed by square brackets. And inside the square brackets needs to be a list of column names. So in Python, lists are surrounded by the square brackets, and then we want a list of column names, and the column names should be surrounded by quotation marks. So let's do income, and elements in the list should be separated by a comma. Patronage. All right, and so this will create a new data frame that only consists of these two columns, and that will be where you can perform operations that you want to restrict to just those two columns of data. All right, so the actual writing to a CSV file is done with the toCSV function, and that's accessed by putting the variable name of your data frame that I declared up here, and then dot toCSV, and then parentheses. And inside the parentheses, it takes two inputs, and they're separated by this comma. So the first input is the name of the file you want to save the data to. And so in this example, I'm storing the new data that I saved that's only from these columns. And then that specification is made with this second argument, and you want to put columns equals followed by either the data frame that you created by doing this process here, or you can also just put the bracketed list of column names after this equals sign. They both accomplish the same task. And so once I run this, I have it here and here printing out the data frame, so you can see kind of how it formats. It's a little bit ugly to look at, but it has, you can see it has all of the data in this one, and then in this one it only has income and patronage. And so it should have outputted to this new, I guess I titled it new1.csv. And so that has all of the data formatted so that whatever program you're using to view it in can display it neatly in a table. And so I'll show you how that works here. Double click on it from your file system and it should show up in Excel or Numbers in this neatly formatted table. So reading and writing to Excel is almost exactly the same. The main difference is instead of read CSV and to CSV, it's read Excel and to Excel. And you want to make sure that you have a file name here that has the xlsx extension. And then the other main difference is the to Excel function, the columns input. For some reason, they require it to be in the format of a list of column names. So previously with the CSV, we were able to take this data frame and pass it through. However, with the Excel function, it only works in this format with the column names in a bracketed list. And so if I run this, this is going to show up in, all the data shows up again down here, but it'll show up in a new Excel file. It doesn't open up in Visual Studio Code, but I will be able to open it up with the Numbers app here. And so now, well, it's not formatted very well, but there we go. The neatly formatted table is saved into this new file name. There's a couple quick things that I forgot to mention. The first of which is these variables right here that we're saving, the df and new, those are data frame type variables. And so these are only going to be readable and operable on by the pandas module. And so if you're using tools from other modules, you're going to need to convert the data into formats that the other functions can use. And so commonly they're going to want a list of data values from a specific column. And so the way that you do that is pretty similar to the way that you define this new data frame here with only the income and patronage columns. So it's the same up to the point where you have df and then brackets. And then inside the brackets, you want to put just the column name, no additional pair of brackets. That's only when you have a list of multiple column names. So just for the one column name, just directly inside the brackets, then dot values. And then outside of it, put parentheses. And then before all of this, put list. And so what that does is it calculates the values of this data frame for the column income. And then it converts the data type into a list. And so that will be available to be used by a lot of different functions. And I'll show you what that looks like when it comes up. All right, so basically this is the output. It's a little easier to see up here. And it has a list of all of the numbers under the income category. And what I'm doing here is the other thing I wanted to talk about. So one of the features that Visual Studio Code has is you are able to place breakpoints. And so that is on this left-hand side here, you can click to place a dot. And the dot tells the code to stop at this line before executing the line. And so what you're able to do is go in and run and debug, and then it stops here, and you can look at all your variables in the different states. And so this is often used for figuring out where specific problems are arising and trying to just put together what exactly your function is doing. All right, and that should be everything for reading and writing to Excel and CSV files.